What if some of the greatest American war stories ever filmed were waiting online, free and still powerful enough to shake you decades later? From courage carved in mud to loyalty tested in impossible moments, these aren't just movies, they're living time capsules. Some will make you cheer, others will leave you quiet. Each one captures a different kind of bravery. So grab your seat, soldier, because what's coming next isn't just history. It's the heart of America, still beating on screen. Number 12. The Great Escape, 1963. Sometimes defiance wears a grin. The Great Escape isn't just a war film, it's a celebration of determination, teamwork, and cleverness under pressure. Based on real events, it follows a group of Allied prisoners plotting one of the boldest escapes in World War II history. Steve McQueen, in his most iconic role, rides through it all with quiet, cool, and restless spirit. Director John Sturges built the film like a puzzle, every piece fitting perfectly, from the tunnels dug beneath the camp to the personalities of the men who risked it all. What makes it so gripping is its rhythm. You feel the slow build of tension, the careful planning, the whispered hope that maybe, just maybe, this time freedom's within reach. When the final act unfolds, triumph and heartbreak sit side by side. The film never glorifies the conflict, it honors endurance. Beneath the charm and humor lies something deeply human, the need to stay free even when the world says otherwise. Watching The Great Escape today still feels fresh, smart, and strangely emotional. It's that rare adventure where courage isn't about winning, it's about refusing to surrender your spirit. Number 11. The Bridge on the River Quai, 1957. Few films walk the edge between brilliance and madness like The Bridge on the River Quai. Directed by David Lean, it's set in the blistering jungles of Burma, where British prisoners are ordered to build a bridge for their captors. But the real conflict isn't between armies, it's inside one man's pride. Alec Guinness delivers a legendary performance as Colonel Nicholson, a soldier so obsessed with discipline that he slowly loses sight of who he's serving. What begins as defiance turns into a strange sense of honor, and his pride becomes the film's ticking time bomb. Lean's direction is pure visual poetry. Sunlight glinting through bamboo, sweat dripping from determination, and the haunting whistled march that became an anthem of irony. The jungle feels alive, watching every decision with judgmental silence. When the story finally erupts, it's both grand and tragic. You realize the bridge itself isn't just a structure, it's a symbol of human stubbornness, of how discipline can twist into delusion. Few movies capture that duality so perfectly. Even decades later, The Bridge on the River Quai stands tall as both an adventure and a warning. Sometimes victory and vanity are the same bridge, just seen from different sides. Number 10. A Bridge Too Far, 1977. If you think war movies always end in glory, A Bridge Too Far will correct that idea fast. Richard Attenborough's sprawling epic tackles Operation Market Garden, the Allied plan to end the Second World War early by capturing a chain of bridges across the Netherlands. It was daring, it was ambitious, and it failed spectacularly. The film gathers an unbelievable cast: Sean Connery, Robert Redford, Anthony Hopkins, Gene Hackman, each embodying a different layer of confidence, doubt, and eventual frustration. The brilliance of Attenborough's direction lies in his honesty. There's no perfect hero here, only brave men trapped inside a plan that collapses piece by piece. Shot on real locations with hundreds of extras, the action feels immediate, chaotic, and heartbreakingly human. You feel the miscommunication, the hesitation, the fragile moments when strategy meets reality and falls apart. What makes A Bridge Too Far unforgettable isn't just its size, it's its message. It reminds you that intelligence, courage, and hope can still crumble under pride. It's long, yes, but not a single minute is wasted. Every scene drives home one truth. In history, sometimes the biggest mistakes come from the brightest intentions. And that's a story worth remembering. Number 9. Patton, 1970. Few performances have ever burned brighter than George C. Scott in Patton. The movie opens with that legendary monologue before the American flag, a speech so commanding it became part of pop culture. But this isn't just a story about a general, it's a character study of obsession, genius, and ego clashing under the banner of victory. Director Franklin J. Schaffner crafts the film as both biography and mirror. You watch a man who sees battle not as chaos, but as art, treating every move like a painter attacking a canvas. Patton's brilliance wins wars, but his pride wages another one inside his own head. Filmed across sweeping European landscapes, the movie balances massive battle sequences with quiet moments of reflection. Jerry Goldsmith's powerful score gives it heartbeat and myth, yet what keeps it timeless is its complexity. Scott's portrayal never asks you to like Patton, only to understand him. In the end, Patton isn't about triumph, it's about contradiction. The general becomes a symbol of how greatness and arrogance can share the same skin. Watching it free today feels like rediscovering a time when films dared to ask hard questions about leadership and humanity. Sometimes the hardest victories are the ones fought within. Number 8. Tora, 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 1970. This isn't a war film, it's a time machine. Tora, Tora, Tora takes you minute by minute through the events leading to the attack on Pearl Harbor, told from both the American and Japanese sides. It's rare, balanced, and stunningly detailed. Co-directed by Richard Fleischer and Kinji Fukasaku, the film stands as one of cinema's most accurate historical reconstructions. Real planes, real ships, and no computer effects. Every explosion, every maneuver, every line of dialogue feels grounded in research and authenticity. Instead of heroes and villains, you see two nations bound by pride and fate. The suspense doesn't come from explosions, it comes from paperwork, miscommunication, and the ticking clock of inevitability. Watching it, you realize history doesn't always explode. It sometimes unfolds in silence, one missed message at a time. What sets Tora apart is its fairness. It shows strategy and emotion from both sides without turning either into caricature. The result is both thrilling and sobering. It's not just a spectacle, it's an education. When the skies finally erupt, you're not cheering. You're holding your breath because you already know how it ends, and that's what makes it unforgettable. Number 7. Sergeant York, 1941. Before modern heroes hit the screen, there was Sergeant York, the story of a man who didn't want to fight but couldn't ignore what he believed was right. Directed by Howard Hawks and starring Gary Cooper in one of the most defining performances of his career, the film tells the real-life journey of Alvin York, a Tennessee farmer whose faith and conscience were tested by the outbreak of the First World War. What makes Sergeant York special isn't spectacle, it's transformation. York begins as a restless soul, more interested in hunting and mischief than in history. But when the world calls, he answers not with pride, but with quiet conviction. Cooper's portrayal earned him an Academy Award, and it's easy to see why his eyes tell the story of a man torn between belief and duty. The film walks a tightrope between patriotism and morality, showing that courage can coexist with doubt. Hawks fills it with heartland humor, emotional honesty, and a kind of old-school sincerity that still works today. It's not just a war movie, it's a portrait of conscience under fire. And by the end, you're left thinking that true heroism isn't loud. It's the whisper that says, do what's right, even when you're scared to. Number 6. The Big Red One, 1980. The Big Red One isn't polished. It's raw, restless, and brutally honest, exactly as director Samuel Fuller, a veteran himself, intended. Based on his own experiences in the 1st Infantry Division during the Second World War, the movie follows a handful of soldiers from North Africa to Europe as they survive one campaign after another. Lee Marvin leads the squad as the hardened sergeant, a man who has seen too much and feels too little, guiding a new generation of fighters who are still learning what survival really means. The film doesn't glorify anything. The battles are messy, confusing, and relentless. You feel the exhaustion, the hunger, and the emptiness that creeps in after every so-called victory. Fuller uses dark humor and fragmented storytelling to show how war distorts time and memory. One moment feels endless, the next is gone in a flash. The beauty of the Big Red One lies in its humanity in the small moments between chaos, when the men share food, tell stories, or stare into nothing because words have failed. Over the years, this film has earned cult respect as one of the most truthful portrayals of life on the front lines. It's not about heroes. It's about survivors and the silent costs they carry long after the smoke clears. Number 5. Battleground, 1949. Before handheld realism became a Hollywood trend, Battleground was already there. This was one of the first major studio films to show American soldiers not as flawless icons, but as cold, hungry, scared men trying to endure the Battle of the Bulge. Directed by William Wellman, a real-life aviator from the First World War, the movie captures the grit of winter warfare with haunting authenticity. Filmed in real snow under freezing conditions, every breath feels real, every shiver earned. The dialogue crackles with dry humor, the kind that comes from men who've seen too much to take anything seriously anymore. Van Johnson leads the cast as a weary private who's just trying to make it through another night. There's no swelling music, no overblown speeches, just human endurance. What made Battleground revolutionary in its time was honesty. It showed that bravery wasn't about charging forward, it was about holding your ground when everything inside you wanted to run. It also gave audiences one of the first glimpses of the emotional toll that conflict leaves behind. When it was released, veterans praised it for getting the details right, the fear, the boredom, the camaraderie. Watching it now feels like opening a time capsule from an era when Hollywood was finally learning to listen to the people who had actually lived it. Number 4. The Longest Day, 1962. If you could film an encyclopedia of D-Day, it would look like The Longest Day. This sprawling epic, produced by Darrell F. Zanuck, tells the story of June 6, 1944, the day Allied forces stormed Normandy and changed the course of the war. But unlike most war films, this one spreads its focus wide, showing the invasion from multiple perspectives: American, British, French, and even German. With a legendary cast including John Wayne, Henry Fonda, Richard Burton, and Sean Connery, every scene feels like a piece of cinematic history. The production itself was a mammoth undertaking, shot on real locations with authentic equipment. You can practically feel the wind off the English Channel, hear the confusion of overlapping radio calls, and see the sheer scale of coordination that turned chaos into strategy. What makes The Longest Day so captivating is its tone. It's not flashy, it's procedural. It shows how every small decision, every moment of hesitation shaped the day's outcome. The black and white cinematography adds grit instead of glamour, turning history into something you can almost touch. It's long, yes, but worth every minute, because when you reach the end, you don't just understand D-Day, you feel the weight of what it took to make that day happen. Number 3. 12 O'Clock High, 1949. Before modern films explored the mental strain of combat, 12 O'Clock High did it first. Starring Gregory Peck as Brigadier General Frank Savage, the film dives deep into the psychology of leadership under relentless stress. It's set among American bomber crews flying dangerous missions over Europe, a job that's as much about courage as it is about endurance. Peck's performance is quiet thunder, all control on the surface, chaos underneath. Savage is sent to whip a demoralized squadron back into shape, but what begins as a test of discipline turns into a battle with burnout. Every mission pushes the men closer to breaking, and every order chips away at their leader's sanity. Director Henry King gives the film a near-documentary feel, drawing heavily from real stories and military records. The aerial sequences are stunning, filmed with precision rather than spectacle. But it's the human tension that sticks with you, the cost of responsibility, the loneliness of command, the silent question of how much pressure a person can take before something gives. When it premiered, real veterans said it felt too real, and that was the point. 12 O'Clock High is still studied in leadership programs today, proof that its lessons go far beyond the battlefield. It's not about flying, it's about holding steady when everything below you is falling apart. Number 2. 30 Seconds Over Tokyo, 1944. Long before modern thrillers showed stealth missions and surprise attacks, 30 Seconds Over Tokyo did it first and did it with grace. Directed by Mervyn LeRoy, this MGM classic tells the story of the Doolittle Raid, one of the boldest aerial missions of the Second World War. But what makes it special isn't just its accuracy, it's the humanity that shines through the history. Starring Spencer Tracy and Van Johnson, the film balances realism with emotion. The flight scenes are astonishing for their time, created with meticulous miniature work and documentary-style precision. Every moment in the cockpit feels tense and grounded. You sense the stakes, the fear, and the quiet courage that drives these airmen forward. What sets 30 Seconds Over Tokyo apart from other films of its era is its restraint. It doesn't glorify the danger, it honors the people who faced it. The writing is humble, the performances understated, and the storytelling deeply respectful. Even the romance subplot, often overplayed in classic war films, is handled with tenderness rather than sentimentality. When it premiered, audiences wept and cheered in equal measure, not out of spectacle, but gratitude. Watching it today, you'll realize how a film made in black and white can still feel vividly alive. It reminds us that bravery doesn't always come from anger or vengeance. Sometimes it comes from quiet determination to simply finish what you started. Number 1. Saving Private Ryan, 1998. If there's one film that redefined how audiences experience war on screen, it's Saving Private Ryan. Directed by Steven Spielberg, it begins with one of the most haunting sequences ever filmed, the landing at Omaha Beach. What follows isn't a story about victory, but about humanity, sacrifice, and the thin line between duty and mercy. Tom Hanks leads as Captain Miller, a man tasked with finding a single soldier whose brothers have all been lost. His squad's journey becomes a meditation on morality. How far should you go for one life when so many others hang in the balance? Every performance feels lived in, from the weary faces to the trembling hands. Spielberg's direction changed war cinema forever. The shaky handheld shots, the muted sound design, the unflinching detail, it all puts you inside the chaos without glamorizing it. Composer John Williams adds emotional gravity that lingers long after the final salute. What makes Saving Private Ryan timeless isn't its size, but its soul. It captures the exhaustion behind heroism, the cost behind compassion, and the quiet, staggering truth that courage often looks like kindness under pressure. Watching it free today feels almost surreal, a reminder that even in the loudest moments of history, what matters most are the quiet ones that follow. So there you have it, 12 American war classics that still pulse with courage, memory, and meaning. Each one tells a different side of the same truth. That history isn't just dates and battles, it's people ordinary and flawed doing extraordinary things. These films aren't just stories, they're echoes. Which one spoke to you the loudest? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe because the past still has a lot to teach us.